Hello, Red Wave. It's football season. We made it. Welcome to Bulldogs podcast. I am your host, Caleb Nail, along with me, my good friend who's joining me the rest of this year, Caleb Pletz. Caleb, Mr. Pletz, thank you as always. How are you doing? We're here. By the way, if you're on YouTube, you can see other squares down below and people. I'm going to get to them in just a second. Caleb, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. It is week 1, game week. We made it through the dog days of summer, which has been long and grueling. Too much conference realignment talk. But now we can actually talk football. And I'm super excited for our get-to-know episodes. And we got some great guests here this week to fill us in on Purdue. So really look forward to it.
Yes. Joining us today to get to know the Purdue Boilermakers are the hosts of Boiler Alert, Andrew and Ryan. Andrew, I'm going to start with you first. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, glad to be here.
Please tell us about your 3-year-old's decorations in the background before we get started.
Okay, so I did say this before we started recording because I record in my basement for our podcast, and I have a 3-year-old. He's in preschool, so we've got a whole wall full of stuff for him. You can see here we've got the alphabet. Behind me, we've got shapes. If I turn the camera a little bit, we've got the whole circle time situation over here, pulled straight out of a Miss Rachel video for those of you with kids. So we've got a lot going on down here. So we're well stocked up. In case you guys have any questions during the podcast, I can help you out with numbers, shapes, colors, letters, whatever we need. I got it covered.
Perfect. Thank you. And Ryan, we have no idea what you look like, but how's everything going in West Lafayette? Did I get that right?
Yeah. Well, as you can see, I take my school colors seriously with the black and gold. So, yeah, just no camera here today. It's on the fritz. But yeah, things are good. I'm about an hour out of West Lafayette, and so I get to enjoy the Chicago lifestyle. We'll see how much I can survive that. But I look forward to game days. I look forward to working with you guys. And it's football season is back. We love it.
Mm-hmm. I'm pumped. And by the way, this is the first time in a long time that we get a morning game. It's going to be 9 a.m. kickoff for us. This is brand new. How often are you guys playing at noon?
Used to, it was a lot more because we were one of the last teams in the Big Ten to get like permanent lights. Used to, we would just rely on like the TV networks to come bring in their big trucks and put up the lights and all that. So for that reason, the networks are like, we don't want to pay for those. We'll just put you at noon or, 3:30 at the latest so that it's not really dark at the end of the game. So this year, I think, we don't have all the game times announced, but I think Purdue has at least like 5 games that are in the evening this year. So not as many noon games as we're used to in the past.
Okay. That shocks me. I had this is how spoiled we are, or I am. I had no idea there were stadiums with no lights. We've had lights for a while.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, our side is different. They always put us as late as possible, like 7:30 kicks, just to make it cooler. Because I mean, our temperatures right now are pretty brutal. So
I don't want to deal with that. But also, I mean, you guys being out west, you're part of the whole. Hey, we can watch football all day long, so we got to have those West Coast games start late so that everybody on the East Coast can watch them and then finish their day with football.
Right. All the networks want it, but we didn't get a call this year. A little bummed, but that's okay. I want to start with this. I want to start with what is the overall feeling in the Purdue football program about this upcoming season? Andrew, Ryan, whoever wants to start, go for it. But how are you guys and the fan base feeling about this upcoming season?
Ryan, I'll let you go first.
Okay, perfect. So I think there's a little bit of optimism going on. Purdue has a new head coach this season who is running a different style than we're used to. We're primarily used to a high-flying run and gun offense, and our new head coach, Ryan Walters, was the defensive coordinator at Illinois last season. And he was one of the highly touted defensive minds in college football for an opening. And we snagged him up, but we're used to an offensive play style. So we'll see if that style conflicts. But luckily, our offensive coordinator that we pulled in is Graham Harrell, who was under Mike Leach. So air raid offense, we hope that works for us. So there's a sense of optimism, but obviously it's guarded just because it's a lot of turnover. With that, there's a lot of transfers, as the current football state is. But I think we're excited, but we don't want to get too excited.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think to Ryan's point too, there was so much turnover, especially on offense. Purdue lost their starting quarterback, their best tight end. We lost our number one wide receiver, who was basically our, Charlie Jones was just everything last year from a wide receiver perspective. And, you're losing those three guys on offense. That was almost the entirety of the offense. I mean, we were bringing back our running back, Devin Mockabee, who was a walk-on last year, now on scholarship, nearly got to 1,000 yards last year. But there's a lot of questions about who else is going to be around him. We brought in Hudson Card as a transfer quarterback, got all the talent in the world, but, we've never seen him play in a Purdue uniform. So there are a lot of questions, but I think Ryan is right. There's a lot of excitement and some cautious optimism around the Purdue program right now, because Ryan Walters really has come in and injected a whole lot of optimism and energy into the program. Even though Jeff Brom was very successful at Purdue, got us a Big Ten West title and got us the Big Ten championship game, Jeff Brom really didn't excite a lot of people. He was kind of a downer sometimes. So Walters is kind of just on the opposite end of the spectrum energy-wise. So that, I think, has made a difference in the fan base.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, because I know that I was interested in December of last year, where tough loss to Michigan in the Big Ten championship game, and then just a beat down in the bowl game. So obviously, I'm not super locked into Purdue. So I mean, where was the coaching change there? Like when did he leave? Was that before the bowl game? And what was kind of the circumstance there? At least on the fan perspective of okay, are we glad this guy's gone, or was it kind of bittersweet?
He was a Louisville guy. He played at Louisville. His family is like royalty in Louisville. And he'd flirted with going to Louisville to coach, I think, on 2 separate occasions. So it wasn't a shock when he ultimately took the job after this last season. And it was one of those, maybe he thought it was all he could accomplish at Purdue. He'd reached kind of the mountaintop at Purdue, and it's time to move on. And I think a lot of Purdue fans understood that, because going home always has a huge draw to it. But at the same time, it's never fun to be the guy, to be the school that the coach leaves for someone else. That's always frustrating. So it's good and bad. I think the program needed a little more energy, and Ryan Walters is bringing that. But it's always bittersweet when you lose a coach to another program. It never feels good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can say I was at both of those games, the Big Ten championship and the bowl game. So I definitely got the full face of that transition, we shall say. Plus, losing a lot of seniors who just didn't play because they were going to go to the NFL draft. Bowl game did not go very well.
No, it did not. No, it did not.
So,
but less said about that, the better.
Right. It was a nice vacation in Florida.
There you go. Yeah, and unfortunately, LSU showed up a little bit stronger. I think 63-7, just for the Fresno State fans who didn't watch that bowl game.
You didn't miss much.
So it sounds like there's a lot of questions, very much like the Fresno State team. There are players that have come in that we haven't seen play in our uniforms. A lot of questions, but I want to know from you guys, what are the strengths of this Purdue team that you know of?
I think two that stand out to me. One is going to be the running back position. Devin Mockabee, I think, is extremely talented. As I said, he almost ran for 1,000 yards last year without being the starter at the beginning of the year. So he's incredibly talented. He's back. He's healthy. No issues there. And then I think the defensive line for Purdue is going to be pretty good. They've got a lot of big guys, a lot of space eaters. And it's just a matter of can they get off their blocks and get those sacks, get those tackles for loss, instead of just taking up space. So I think that can be a real strength for this Purdue team. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And then I would also throw in barring injury, because that's always the monkey wrench. The offensive line can actually be quite a skilled group. They brought in some transfers just to have some backups, but if they're all healthy, and that's, again, a big if, it should be a pretty well constructed group to protect a brand new quarterback.
That's what I'm worried about. That's one, and we're going to get to that when we talk in our preview. But who are, other than your running back, who are some impact players? Now, I did hear that your wide receiver went down. One of your big wide receivers went down for this year.
Yeah, he was a transfer, so we don't really know. I mean, he was projected to start. He was projected to play quite a bit, but again, he's one of those guys. We'd never seen him in a Purdue uniform, so we don't really know. We also have one of our tight ends is out, who is going to be our number one tight end most likely. He's out for at least the first game, maybe more. So we've got a couple speedy wide receivers. Deion Burks is going to be pretty fast for Purdue. But I mean, the truth is, I don't think we know what we're getting out of the wide receiver position. There are more questions than answers out there. And maybe Ryan disagrees. Maybe Ryan has someone who he's been watching and thinks can step up. But that is one of my biggest question marks.
Right. And to build off of that, the wide receiver room is really going to be a room by committee. So Hudson Card may have to throw to a lot of different guys, and no one may stand out. The closest I would say to that may be TJ Sheffield. He's the longest tenured receiver on Purdue's roster. He went down a couple years ago with a little bit of an injury in our bowl game to Tennessee, but he bounced back pretty nicely last year, and he's looking to have a nice senior year to really jumpstart into the NFL. I think that's his main goal. So he could be the standout. Now, again, with guarded optimism, we have to figure out how well he can mesh with a new quarterback, as is always the way.
Sure.
Right.
And yeah, question about Hudson Card at quarterback. Was there any type of quarterback competition this summer, or was he pretty much set as QB1?
No, I mean, there was – the only issue was we had a talented guy as a sophomore, Brady Allen, who came in highly recruited, highly touted. And when we got Hudson Card, he entered the transfer portal. And then he decided to come back. He exited the transfer portal. So we're like, oh, they're going to have a competition. They're going to see who it is. But then like 3 weeks later, he entered the transfer portal again. And then he ultimately left. And at that point, there was no question. I mean, it was going to be Hudson Card. It's Hudson Card or nobody at this point.
Now, last thing before I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions too. But how about the defensive side of the ball? Any players on the defensive side of the ball that Fresno State fans should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I think two names that really pop out in my head are going to be Cam Allen, one of our safeties. He has a knack for intercepting the ball. So I believe he led the team in interceptions last year, and he's pretty much just a ball hawk. Now, he's one of those players that may try to tackle you a little too hard and miss. So, that's always fun to see when you're a fan. But it's boom or bust sometimes with Cam Allen. And the other name that comes to mind is Nick Scourton, formerly Nick Caraway.
Caraway,
thank you. Callaway. Yeah, he's our sophomore edge rusher, and as a freshman, he made an impact. He's coming back, and he seems to be one of the highly regarded players on the defense just to make an impact and just make a play. So that's always important. He was voted one of the team captains, so obviously well respected within the program. And I think talent really bleeds through everything when it comes to that. So that's a name to watch out for.
Yeah.
Okay. Purdue always has interesting last names when it comes to edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Now, you guys are also, if I want to turn it over to you guys. You guys have any questions about Fresno State that you need answered?
Ryan, I know I sent some questions to them that I could ask, but I know, Ryan, you said you were going to prepare some as well. Do you want to go first?
Sure. So my main question is on offense. You transition from a quarterback who has been a 3-year guy, 3-year starter, super high-level quarterback in Jake Haener, and you're switching over to Mikey Keene, I presume. Transferred from USC or UCF, not USC, and highly recruited player, but how is their style different? What is Mikey Keene bringing that maybe Haener didn't bring, and vice versa?
That's a good question. Obviously, there's still a lot unknown about Keene, and I think that there's definitely more similarities than there are differences. Frame-wise, they're going to look pretty similar. They're about the same size. Keene's also very, very accurate. That was one of Haener's, big strength is, he really didn't put the ball, in danger. And last year, I think he probably only threw like 5 picks. So, Keene's accurate. And so I think really main difference, I've heard some things that, maybe his arm isn't as strong as Jake's was. We haven't really seen it with our own eyes though. So that was really the only, difference there in terms of comparison between the two. I don't know, Caleb, you can maybe add on.
Just so you know, Keene is the starter for all the Purdue Boilermakers. He's been named the starter. So Keene will get the start on Saturday. I heard a couple things when he first came in that he can move, but we just saw Jake Haener bust off 26 yards in the NFL. So, there's, and Haener is real tough. I think they're very similar. The thing that I think is different about Mikey Keene and Jake Haener is, and I can't be 100% sure on this, but from what we've been told, there was Jake Haener was more vocal than Mikey Keene. Okay. And maybe that's just, the new guy coming in, he's got to earn his role as the leader there. So, there's probably some adjustment, but from what we had heard, there was a vocal difference. If there still is a difference, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But physically, very similar.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's lovely from an opponent's standpoint.
I'll go next. One thing I think everybody who listens to our podcast wants to know is, can you give us one unit that's a strength and one unit you might view as a weakness on both sides of the ball?
Go ahead, Caleb.
So historically, we'll start on offense. Historically, I'd say the weakness has got to be the offensive line. This year, I think I'd still put that as a question mark just because we don't really know what it's going to look like. We have a new offensive line coach, Coach Army, coming up from the FCS level. And, he's coming highly regarded. But Fresno State has a lot of the same pieces as last year. So I think it's really going to come down to scheme of whether, he's going to be able to scheme the existing pieces to be better and more cohesive. Because, we had an infinite number of different combinations of personnel on the line last year, which just wasn't great for continuity. And there's a couple injuries too. So O-line is definitely, I would say, probably the weakness on the offense.
Yeah, we're just talking weakness right now or question mark.
It's up to you. It's up to you.
I do want to address the wide receiver conversation because I think a lot of people around the nation that don't keep up with Fresno State see that we lost a lot of production at the wide receiver position, and we lost our running back and our quarterback. But I just want to make a confirmation to everyone listening that there are good wide receivers that are coming in, and we are really excited about them. We have 2 transfers. We also have some young guys, and we do have returning production in 2 players that caught a couple passes here and there that are very quick, and we're excited about our wide receiver class. So if people they think that, or they're wondering why we don't say wide receiver class as a weakness or question mark, because we're actually really excited about this wide receiver room. And then I'm going to have to agree with Caleb when it comes to the O line. And then actually, I think our trenches are probably the biggest question marks that we don't know too much about. I'm excited for our edge rushers and our depth at D line, but there are question marks. Can we stop the run? Because Ashton Jainty, the freshman at Boise last year, ran all over us. And when you guys talk about your running back, that's where I get a little bit worried.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I'd say strength on defense. I think it has to be cornerback. Dogs are returning. Cam Lockridge and Carlton Johnson. I mean, both really strong defensive, cover corners and also big hitters too. So it's definitely a strength there. Behind them, depth is a little bit of a question mark, but as long as those 2 guys are staying healthy and staying on the field, then it's definitely a position of strength for Fresno State.
Ditto.
All right, Ryan, you got anything else?
I do. So Andrew knows this. We kind of do this segment every week. And I'm not sure how familiar you, Caleb, and Caleb are with the Sickos community. But one of the things we like to do is we like to take our opponent's punter and figure out how many punts it would take that punter to get to a specific landmark that's relative to the school we're opposing. So, for instance, a couple weeks ago, we had Iowa on, and one of the locations that we did for the punter was the Iowa State Fair. See how far it would be to that area. So, we've kind of done this where I've given the amount of punts it would take, and you kind of try and guess where the area is.
Okay.
And mind you, this is an area that's very relevant to Fresno State.
Okay.
So, from your punter last season, it would take 62,851 punts to get to this location from Fresno State's stadium.
Now, do I get a direction like north, south, east, west, or no?
We can do that. I mean, 1,500. It's about 1,500 miles. So if you're going 1,500 miles west, you're in the ocean. It is not that way. I will give you. It's in the U.S.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we'll just start. I'll fill a little bit, and Caleb can keep brainstorming. So Carson King is the returning Fresno State punter, friend of the program. So definitely, if you are interested in learning about our punter, he was on with us a couple weeks ago, so you can go back and listen to that episode.
We'll check that out for sure. Yeah,
definitely.
Punting is winning, is what they say.
Exactly.
Great guy too.
Very, very good guy, which makes me feel bad for how critical I've been about his ability to flip the field. So I don't know, Caleb, go ahead and throw out a guess.
Vegas?
Nope, it's a little bit farther than Vegas.
No, there's no way it's 1,500.
It's 1,500 miles?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
I don't know.
It's about halfway across the United States.
Okay, it's probably to West Lafayette, Indiana.
No.
Okay.
All right,
No,
just give
not
it to
quite.
them, Ryan. They're not going to get it.
It is to NRG Stadium, the home of the Houston Texans. Where, obviously, the very first pick of the Texans, Fresno State quarterback David Carr, but also Houston is the hometown of Lorenzo Neal Jr., whose father, also a Fresno State Bulldog, but Jr. went to Purdue.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Oh,
So there
wow.
you go.
Good.
There's a little
Very
bit of a
good
connection.
nugget there. Very good nugget.
I feel dumb.
Oh, no.
We like to expand upon the sickos community.
There's no way you could have gotten it. He gets to me every week. I think I've gotten one of them. So there's no shame at all. Don't worry about it. But it's just, it's one of the things we like to have a little fun with, because otherwise we just get bogged down in talking about players and stats and everything else. So we like to throw a little bit of something in there.
Right. Well, one of the things we like to ask is, who do you guys hate is a strong word, but in the football community, we love the word hate. Who do you guys hate the most? It could be a school. It could be an opponent's coach. Who do you hate the most? And
there's a lot of answers here.
It could be personal, or you could represent the entire Boilermaker community.
Ryan, I'm going to let you go first, and I'm going to vanish from the screen for a minute because I have to get a computer charger. But I'm going to allow him to answer the question because I've already got like 3 answers. So keep that in mind. I'll be right back.
Okay. So I'll kind of provide one of each. So the obvious answer is Indiana Hoosiers. They are our biggest rival. It's might as well be a sibling rivalry. Like, we're right there hand in hand. We're right down the highway. And there's some bad blood there every once in a while. A lot of times you'll have a family in Indiana, have one kid go to Purdue, one kid go to Indiana, and you got to keep them separated, otherwise they'll start fighting a little bit. Now, from a player standpoint, or a player and a coach standpoint, there's a lot of Big Ten coaches that we love to hate, but there are few that we just truly despise. And I think the main candidate for us is the head coach of Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. I like to call him Captain Khaki. So absolutely cannot stand the guy because he's the world revolves around me type guy. But until he got fired, Scott Frost was another guy.
Yes.
And the bad man is gone from Nebraska, so don't have to worry about him anymore.
But wasn't it fun to have Scott Frost there, because that they're just gonna go like 4-8?
How he kept that job for that long was shocking. I don't know. I never understand it.
But it brought out the most delusional fans. So that was really the instability of the Scott Frost era. I mean, bad football was great, but when you got to hear from fans 365 days a year, it's just unbearable sometimes. Now, I don't want to steal one of Andrew's, so I will say one other family duo we don't like is the Iowa head coach and offensive coordinator. They are a father-son duo, and
It's nepotism.
Yeah. Kirk Ferentz is going to be there till he dies, and Brian might be there right alongside with him because Iowa loves their nepotism.
He's just going to inherit the title of head coach somehow. I don't know how he's going to do it, but he is. So
that's
Ryan,
his contract allows him.
So obviously I had to run and get a charger. Who did you say before Harbaugh?
Indiana.
IU.
Okay. I don't want to step on your thunder. So is that all you got, or can I go now?
That's all I'm going to say.
I've got a list. So
I'll let you go down your list.
I mean, IU, of course, is number one. As a Purdue fan, I hate everything about IU. Obviously, huge rivals in basketball, but we hate them in football just as much. But, the state of Indiana, it's really a basketball state. So it's a much bigger rivalry in basketball, but I cannot stand them any day of the week, especially growing up in a small town in Indiana where the vast majority of people were Indiana fans. And my family was a proud Purdue family. You just get a bunch of people jawing at you, and you're like, you have never been to their campus. You are not going to college. Stop it. You just want to yell at them. And then Notre Dame. We don't love Notre Dame. It was a lot more fun when we played them every year, but they have to have a national schedule where they play, the 4 different academies, and then they go to California and play USC, and they're so arrogant. We all hate them so much. And then the one I agree with pretty much all of Ryan's too, but did he mention PJ Fleck at all?
No, I let you have it.
Head coach of Minnesota.
Row that boat.
Just he's got to be one of the most annoying men in college football. And the fact that he created his own currency within the locker room to help people get out of bad things. And you could get out of wind sprints if you had enough Fleck bucks or whatever. And the stories of him going into recruits' homes and sitting an egg timer down and being you have this long to commit, and then I'm pulling the offer. And you're it's like a 17-year-old kid. Allow him to have a moment. What are we doing here, man? I just don't understand it. So that's a list. I could go on for a long time, but I'll end it there because you guys don't really care about my petty grievances as a football fan. But those are the ones that come to mind.
I think my only follow-up is going to be, is the recharged Iowa offense going to hit their point total that they need this year?
I would love it if they got a point below or 2 points below. That would just be so funny to me. Because he's getting a pay cut, right? If he doesn't hit that number, was it 325 or something like that? Yeah. But imagine being, and then there was an article that came out over the summer about how it's such a hard job and he's under so much pressure, and it's, it's look, buddy, you make almost $1 million and your daddy got you this job. Shut up. Does your golden crown weigh too much on your head too? What are we doing?
So we'll give you a Mountain West comparison here. So San Diego State has been a really good program, really strong program in the Mountain West. And I have been just complaining just on their behalf. If they could just get a competent quarterback to lead their offense, they would be so good because they always have a really strong offense. They have a really strong running back pretty much always. And if they just had a competent quarterback that could run their offense, they would win the league every year. And they just can't figure it out. And I feel like Iowa's kind of in that same boat. If they just had someone that could run the offense, they would be much better. Yeah,
that's true. They could. Yeah. Honestly, they'd be scary.
Yeah, and they almost have one this year. The problem is they chose a transfer with some shaky knees, so their fate may hang in the balance.
Yeah.
Oh man, we love banter. We're all about it here. But back to the game on the field Saturday. Mm-hmm. 2 questions you actually sent over to me that I want to get from you guys as well. So Purdue wins on Saturday. What did Purdue do to win this game?
I would say that they found a way to balance their offense because Devin Mockabee, I think, is going to get his, especially now that you guys have said you're a little worried about the defensive line. That makes me feel like he's going to have a good game. But if no one in the wide receiver core or a tight end can step up to catch the ball, you can just crowd the box and try to slow him down. So if Purdue is able to win, I think they found a way to balance the offense. And I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think the new incoming cornerbacks and basically the remolded secondary that Coach Walters brought in has done a good job.
Yeah, and then to add on top of that, I think defensively they force at least a turnover just because at this point we don't know if they'll be able to win a shootout, right? So I think they have some sort of big play where it can swing momentum in front of a home crowd that'll be going crazy, and that could just carry you all the way to a win.
Okay, now I'm going to flip it. Fresno State won the game on Saturday. what did Fresno State do to Purdue to win that game on Saturday?
Ryan, you can start on this one. I'll let you have the sad version of the question.
Okay. Yeah. So I would say Fresno State was able to really exploit the non-cohesion of the units that Purdue has. It's a lot of transfers. They haven't played on a field together. It can be sloppy, and Fresno State would then take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that is probably the right answer. With so much turnover in the Purdue team, both on the field and coaching staff, you just never know how the first game is going to go. Everybody is saying all the right things, but everybody always says all the right things. Everybody always looks great in the preseason. Everybody always looks great in spring ball. And then you get on the field and you get punched in the mouth. So my worry is that all the transfers that we've brought in, they don't gel as a unit, like Ryan said, and we're looking at 11 guys who aren't playing as a team. And that I think will be especially true in the secondary. And if you guys really are not maybe too confident, but you're happy with what you've got at the wide receiver position, and it sounds like you've got a quarterback who you believe can throw the ball around, if Purdue cannot match up in the defensive backfield, it could be a very difficult game. And I know you guys are happy with your tight end as well. And the tight end has historically been a lot of problems, has given Purdue a lot of problems covering. So that worries me as well.
I'll add this. I'm going to answer the question for you guys, for your listeners.
Appreciate it.
And I will say that, should we start with the sad one, Caleb? Let's just start with the sad
Sure,
one.
go ahead.
Let's get that one out of the way.
Good. I'll edit the good one out when you send me the audio. So I'll be like, I don't know. They just said there was no way they were going to win, and that's all they gave me.
Good. Leave it in there. Fuel our fire.
Yeah, that's right.
If Purdue wins, I agree with Ryan. There's probably we're not holding on to the ball. Probably a lot of turnovers that either Keene is still figuring out the offense or we fumbled the ball. We've had problems with wide receivers in the past fumbling. So we turn over the ball there, and then defensively, like we said, we can't stop the run. My prediction here, I'm not doing any scores. My prediction here is that we stack the box and that we're going to force you to beat us through the air.
That's what I do.
Yeah, perfect. But if you do have a strong running game, that's where I think you beat the Dogs. Caleb, go ahead.
I have the same thought too. Yeah, the running game is going to be how Purdue wins this, because historically, like when we've lost to tough opponents with really strong run games, it's been demoralizing and just 4 or 5 yards at a time and just running down the clock and pound it in. That's usually what is the downfall of recent Fresno State teams.
Yeah, we as a Purdue fan, we know what that's like. We play Wisconsin just about every year, so we don't like to talk about that if we don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Fresno State wins, I think there's Mikey Keene feels very comfortable, and we do a good job at the O-line position. You talked about one of your strengths was the D-line. So maybe we have to play 12-man front with two tight ends to help out and rely on our wide receivers to get open and Mikey Keene to read the defense. But we're controlling the line of scrimmage on the offensive side of the ball, and that will open up a lot of our offensive game. And then defensively, I think we force Hudson Card to throw the ball, like I said, and throw interceptions.
Gotcha.
Ditto.
Perfect. All right, guys, we ready for game day predictions?
Yeah. How do you want to do this? Do you guys want to both go? Do you want us to both go? Do we want to alternate? How do you want to handle it?
How about we go 1 and 1? So one from Beware Bulldogs and one from Boiler Alert.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Ryan, I'll let you go first for us.
Okay. All right. Well, so there is like I said, we're optimistic here at Boiler Alert. So I think I have to go with Purdue win. It's just trouble with the score, right? I do think Purdue will rely heavily on the run game just by opponent, and we know where our strength is on offense. Like to think that'll work, but obviously with question marks on the defense, I think it'll be a close game. So ultimately, I will go Purdue 30, Fresno State 24.
Okay. I believe it's at 4.5 right now. Last time I checked.
Yeah, I saw 4 when I looked this morning, so it could be 4.5 depending on which book you look at.
Yeah, ESPN's showing a 3.5 for Purdue.
Wow.
Okay.
But regardless, all right, I'll go next. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a close game. I definitely feel optimistic about our Bulldogs here. So I think this one's going to be in the 20s for both sides. Because I don't think Fresno State offense is going to click initially. Some of what we saw last year is, I mean, it took till like the 5th game for really the whole team to be firing together. So I think it's going to be, a slower, not fast-paced game. But I think the Dogs are going to win 27-21. So I think it's going to be close, but Dogs are going to win by a couple field goals.
Mm-hmm. All right, I guess that means it's my turn. I don't think there's any surprise here. I'm sure you guys are both going to pick Fresno State. We're both going to pick Purdue. Week 1 is always the hardest one to pick because you just have no idea, especially in the area of the transfer portal. There are so many new guys coming in. You don't know how everybody's going to gel. You don't know really how much talent you've got because you might have seen these guys on other teams, or you might just know that they come from another team and you've never seen them play. So you just kind of have to read what you can, see what you can in practice if you're able to watch, and hope that things come together. I think for Purdue, I think the coaching staff is good from top to bottom. I'm really impressed with what Ryan Walters put together and who he's brought in. I think Graham Harrell is going to be a great offensive coordinator. And I think they are initially going to focus on the run with Maccabee, but I think they're going to surprise through the air because I think Hudson Card is incredibly talented. And I think Purdue has at least 2 guys in Sheffield and Burks who can outplay their opponent, outplay whoever's covering them. And I think Purdue is going to try to exploit those 2 matchups specifically. So I'm going to go similar to Ryan's score, but I'm going to go 31-24. I got to take Purdue to cover the 4.5, whatever it is right now spread.
Yeah, this is a tough one. And Caleb, you actually took my score, the 27-21.
We are in sync.
Yeah. So I quickly adjusted, changed of course, and we're going to go with a 31-28 game.
Okay, close one for you. All right.
Yes. So, I do think it's going to be close. I think even though both, if I read you guys right, it sounds as though both of us are more confident in our defenses. We know what we have there. You guys, what you have with the D line, and we love our defense. However, I do think it's pretty tough as a defense week 1 to know what you're going up against, especially with new quarterbacks, new offenses. So I do think there will be points scored, and so that's why I'm going 31-28.
Great.
I don't think any of those predictions are out of line. I mean, I think it really could go either way. I'll say one reason I chose Purdue. Obviously, I'm a homer, so keep that in mind. But
we're all homers here.
Exactly. The game is at Ross-Ade. This is the first game of the season. It should be a very good crowd. It is the first game under new renovations to the stadium, so brand new south end zone seating. They've updated a lot of stuff in the stadium that I think people are going to be really excited about, and I think it's going to lead to a very good atmosphere. So in college athletics and college sports, atmosphere and home field can mean so much, and so that's one reason I do put Purdue over the edge.
Love it. I did think of a nugget to share with you guys while we were going with this. So Fresno State last time they did face Graham Harrell as an offensive coordinator back in 2019 when he was at USC.
Okay.
Unfortunately for USC that game, Fresno State knocked out JT Daniels, which led to the rise of Keaton Slovis. So both of those guys are now well traveled and did not finish at USC. But that was Fresno State's last encounter with Graham Harrell, was knocking out the starter.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen. But thank you for putting that into the world.
Absolutely. Anything that helps our dogs. All right, and also to build off like game day atmosphere, we definitely agree there. That's one of the best parts of college athletics. But any Fresno State fans that are coming to the area for this game, do you guys have any recommendations of places that they need to check out or stop in, restaurant or bar or anything that is worthwhile while they're in the West Lafayette area?
Well, I mean,
gotta be Harry's, right?
Yeah, I mean, anybody who goes to visit Purdue, you're going to want to go to Harry's. It's the oldest bar on campus. It was a speakeasy during Prohibition. I mean, it's not much to look at, but
Right.
You can go in there and you can get some pretty darn good drinks, pretty strong. Get yourself a Baltimore Zoo is what I would recommend.
What is that?
I can't even tell you. It's just, when you're like 21 or 22 and you go in there and you're with your buddy who's been there like 100 times, you're like, and they're like, I just get a Baltimore Zoo. They do it here all the time. You're like, okay. So you just order one and they mix like 9 different things together and you're like, okay, not bad. So yeah, that's what I would say. And if you go over the bridge into Lafayette, that's where the good restaurants are. That's where they're not like college restaurants, that's where you can get some actual good food over the bridge in Lafayette. But if you want to stick to campus and have like college kid food, you can always get some Mad Mushroom cheese sticks that are just absolutely greasy, cheesy, madness, Mad Mushroom.
Right.
But those will fill you up and cure any hangover that you might have. So that's what I would recommend if you need something greasy.
Yeah, and the last thing I would recommend is kind of a family diner in XXX. So
Good one.
Also go there if you want some greasy food, but that's more of a diner atmosphere. And it was featured on Guy Fieri's Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. So I don't know how people will feel about this, but their main course is a burger with peanut butter on it. So it's definitely different. It's one of those things where it's like you got to try it and you just got to trust someone, but it's well documented in Lafayette or West Lafayette. So XXX.
Yeah, it's called the Dwayne Purvis Burger. A lot of their things are named after Purdue athletes. So that's the Dwayne Purvis Burger. The key, if any of your listeners are going to go, is you get just the cheeseburger with peanut butter on it. Don't get lettuce, don't get tomato, don't get pickle, don't get anything else. Just the peanut butter, the cheese, and the burger. It's delicious.
Lots of protein.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to work out right before and then go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty much. And after.
Yeah, get 2 in.
Perfect. Okay, so we have Harry's, the family diner named XXX,
Yes.
and
Mad Mushroom.
The Mad Mushroom. Got it.
Yes. And XXX is literally just 3 X's in a row.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a family diner. Got it.
And I swear
Yep,
that's not
exactly.
a prank. That is the real name of the restaurant. Their catchphrase is on the hill but on the level. So, it really is a family diner. It's not some prank we're pulling on Fresno State fans. I know that's a strange name, but it is real.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guys, thank you very much. We learned a lot about your team. Plug where you guys are at on social, where they can find you guys, because I know you guys do some writing as well, and where your podcast. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so we are at Boiler Alert on, I guess, X nowadays. It'll always be Twitter to me. But and we also, Ryan and I are both writers on hammerandrails.com, which is the Purdue SB Nation website. So you can find us on there. And you can find us on Facebook at Hammer and Rails as well.
Yes. I should note, Andrew's tag is Jumbo Heroes, and mine is PURB97. In case you're looking for us specifically.
Well, but you can find me. So I had to change the name to just at Boiler Alert, but it still shows as Jumbo Hero. So you can find me under either one.
Right.
Got it. All right, guys. Well, is there anything else that you would like the Red Wave to know before we get out of here?
I just have a question for you. Why are you the Red Wave? I thought you were the Bulldogs. What is this? You said it at the beginning, and I just let it go, and then you said it again, and I was like, I don't know what's happening.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that, because so that's I guess slang name for Fresno State fans is a Red Wave. So
okay,
back in the 90s, there was, I think it was related to Fresno Bee in some way, the local paper, that there was such a caravan of Fresno State fans driving down. I think it was to play USC in the Freedom Bowl. There was so many, red flags and red cars hitting down 99 to go take on USC that it was like a red wave coming to take them out. So since then, it's kind of been, a calling card for Fresno State fans.
Gotcha. I like that.
Okay.
So we're waiting to play Tulane. So we have the Red Wave.
Yeah.
Versus Blue Wave, but
Yeah. The battle of the century.
All right. Well, Caleb, do you have anything for them?
I don't. I think we pretty much covered it. We're fired up for game day, and we definitely appreciate you guys taking the time for us. I know a 3-hour time change is a little bit difficult sometimes, but we appreciate you guys making some time in your evening for us.
Yeah, of course. It's unfortunate that you're nice guys, because now I have to hate you at least until Sunday. But it was great talking to you. Always good to talk to some fellow sports fans, especially of our opponents. So I'm glad you guys could have us on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's hoping you guys go in 11-1.
Likewise.
Right back at you.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, Ryan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.